Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.
There's a storm across the valley, the clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. Today is May 15th, 2024. I'm Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, your host for Community Forum, and it gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome to the show today Reverend Douglas Falls. Thank you. And this is not his first time, but this is a first-time event that we're going to talk about today. So welcome, Doug.
Thank you. Great to be here again.
Yes. Now, tell me, you live in Southeastern, and you have for quite a number of years. Is that right?
15 years in Southeastern, yes.
Right. And so, but you are commuting to Plymouth, and you want to tell us why and what happened.
All right, so I retired a few years ago, and but unlike some people who get the call to be a pastor when they're in their 20s or 30s, I got it in my mid-60s. So I am now an interim pastor at the Chiltonville Congregational Church in Plymouth. And this is something that came up just a couple of months ago. I had been praying about it, thinking about it, asking for mentoring about it for the last year, and God put it right in my lap. So there we go. Yeah.
Wow. And so what kind of a church is it? And how many people do you serve? And I'm sure you have people from surrounding towns also.
It's a very small church. It's only about 40 people right now. It's a very old, historic New England white congregational church. Mm-hmm. And it's situated right next to Plymouth Plantation, the Plymouth Patuxent.
Oh.
And so that it's the historical roots, the pilgrim heritage is very, very important to the people there. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the members of the church are descendants of the pilgrims. So it's got a real interesting historical flavor.
Yeah, wow. Now, when did you start?
Well, that's an interesting thing too. I was supposed to start May 5th, but I got pressed into action a little bit early because the retiring outgoing pastor had a health problem. So I started really in April, early April 7th. Mm-hmm. So I started preaching then, and then gradually built up. Now I'm full-time.
Great. And so tell me, what are your duties? Are they different from the way you led your life earlier? You were chaplain, and so that's a different journey. So what is this like? What can you tell us about being pastor of this small congregational church in Plymouth?
Well, I was as you said, I was a chaplain for many years, and I was a missionary. So I was a kind of a pastor in other contexts, but never was a pastor of a church. And wondered how I'd be able to handle it. It might be, because it can be very, it can be complicated. It can be stressful even, but I'm really enjoying it. It's.
Do you feel appreciated?
Oh yeah. The people there are wonderful. That's the biggest thing that struck me right away. Very welcoming, very just loving, and of course it's a church. It has its problems on the inside, just like any church. Mm-hmm. And I'm aware of that. It doesn't bother me. I thought it would bother me, because that was always one of the fears I had about being a pastor of a church. But
I see.
I'm over that, I think.
Well, in a month you're over it.
Well, I hope so. We'll see. I'm still on the honeymoon.
But you know, it's what everybody wants. They want to have a job where they're appreciated and where they feel fulfilled because they're pursuing a worthwhile purpose.
I am what they call an interim pastor, which means it's a special kind of pastor. I'm the transitional pastor for as long as they need me, probably up to 2 years before they select the settled pastor or the permanent pastor. So they have formed a search committee and they're working on that process. So my job really is to help the church remain in a steady state, I guess is one thing, but also just to help them with some of the issues that maybe they need to work on in preparation for the next person. And so that's kind of it.
And now, my church, Holy Trinity Lutheran, is also going through the same process. The church is located on Lincoln Street in Northeastern, and I'm on the call committee. But before that, we have a committee that analyzes a survey that all members are supposed to take. It's an online survey, and in it you get to express what you feel the needs are now and in the future, and what kind of a pastor you're looking for, you know, a hands-on pastor, somebody who is a mini manager pastor, or a team player, those kinds of things. So the congregation is made up of individuals, and the congregation has its own personality in some ways. And so we don't want any personality clashes by getting the wrong pastor to manage the flock or to lead the flock. Let's put it that way, right?
Right. So yeah, there are different kind of pastors for sure. You have to know yourself and what your gifts are. Nobody's perfect. We're just all human like everybody else. I come from a lot of, I think my gift is pastoral care. I did that a lot in the VA, as we talked about the last time, and so I put a priority on that, and it just so happens I think that's what this church needs that I'm in. But there's all the other things too. It's very important to preach the Word of God, preach the sermon every week, and so I put a lot of time into that. That's something that I'm not used to preaching every week, so that's an adjustment. It's going well. Teaching and the administrative part, just like you said, you know, there are things. Matter of fact, tonight I'm going to a meeting after this. There's all kinds of. That's something that I'm getting used to. That's a new thing. Meetings and the value of them, and I see them differently than I thought I would see them. They're actually good opportunities to really understand the inner workings of the church and to build relationships.
And also, those meetings are very often during the evening.
Yeah.
So that's an adjustment for you too, I assume.
Well, yeah, I'm putting a lot of miles on the commuting odometer right now because it's about a 45-minute or 42-minute drive.
But being in Plymouth is also a perk because it's a beautiful community.
Yeah.
You've got the beautiful beach and ocean and salt water and the breeze, and it's just a lovely place.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I have a sister who lives there and a niece, so that helps too. I know people.
Oh, so you can always stay overnight if you have to, if the meeting is too long to drive home.
Yeah, and we have other friends, and so it's just, it's really good. I like being by the ocean too.
Yes, of course. I think we all like that. We don't like to be landlocked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what do you see as your contributions during this interim position that you have? to this church and to the community?
That word community is really important. And I think that there are things we can do to help the church be seen as an important part of the community that it's in. I think that things have gone up. There's been some ups and downs with the church, with COVID and with other things, and so we're trying to address those. So I think it's a matter of reaching out and finding ways that we can utilize the building and utilize the congregation. I'll give you an example. My wife, Luann, who you met, she's an English as a second language teacher at Bridgewater State. And we used to, a couple of times in our lives, we've helped start ESL programs, once in a church, and that not only led to international people meeting in the church to learn English, but led to another church renting out the church, from the main congregation, and then we've done other things like that, and so we're hoping that something like that can be done in Plymouth too. We're doing a little surveying. This is just an idea at this point.
Now, one of the things that Pastor Polk did, he retired recently, and but one of the things he did was he contacted the town government. So I think he talked to Dottie Fulginetti, and she now comes to our church all the time. But he wanted to know from Dottie, as chair of the select board, what sorts of needs did the town have that our church could supply? You know, what could we do?
That's a good idea.
And so I think sometimes if you reach out to the people who have the answers, you'll find out what the needs are. And so we, every Tuesday, a group of mainly women, prepare over 100 lunches for the children at Father Bill's Mainspring in Brockton, which is a shelter, as you know.
Yes.
Once a month, this supper is prepared for 150, I guess, something like that. So those are two things that, off the top of my head, we have to reach out to the community, because that's what we have been commissioned to do. It's to feed the hungry, help the poor, and even provide housing.
Yep.
Habitat for Humanity does that, and we have some people who are involved in that. Habitat for Humanity is building 2 houses right now in Easton, and anyway, so there are a lot of opportunities for church members to reach out and help others, and I think that's a very important to this day and age when we see so many needs around us.
Great.
So what is it about the church itself, the historic nature of that church? Tell me a little bit about how that started, if you know anything about the church, and what its journey has been.
The church has been around since 1814, and as I said, a lot of the elders of the church or the deacons of the church are descendants of the Mayflower, the original Pilgrims, and they're very proud of that, and they are involved with different activities to promote that. There's a school in Plymouth called the New Testament School. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. My wife used to work there, as a matter of fact, so they are very much also into preserving the Pilgrim legacy and as to how it pertains to us today. not just talking about it historically, but knowing how the things that the Pilgrims did, the way they prayed, the way they persevered, and their faith, how we can learn from that today to be to deal with the 21st century.
Yeah, well, things are a lot more complicated, aren't they?
Very,
Yeah.
very.
So, and there's so much division in our communities and in
Yeah.
the world today. Have you thought about a program which reached out to people and tried to have conversations and create some common ground?
Yeah. As I said, the English as a second language. My wife and I are old missionaries, so we think we
You
kind of looking.
You were in Brazil, right?
Right. And so we are, there's a lot of Brazilians in Plymouth, as a matter of fact, and a lot of immigrants. As a matter of fact, with the migrant crisis, you know, we are looking at that right now to find out how that's impacting Plymouth. I don't know where this is going. We have not studied it well enough yet.
But that is an interesting idea.
But that's our heart. Anyway.
Yeah, it's to welcome, and I know that the Lutheran Church in Brockton, First Lutheran, has people of different cultures and their pastors who are renting the church at different times, and so there are lots of languages that are spoken in that church, and people are finding their common ground there, and at the same time, the church is facilitating the ability for people to hear the Word of God in their own language, and therefore they're coming and they're doing and they're administering to each other and to others. So that could be one of the outreach programs that your church might consider, especially if there's a lot of immigrants and refugees who are coming to the shores of Plymouth.
Well, yeah. English is a second language. I wish I had my wife here. She's the expert. Mm-hmm. I just help her out. But you don't necessarily have to speak the languages of their native language. Even though we speak Portuguese, my wife and I, we speak a little Spanish. But when you're in the methods that you use, don't require that you use the
Oh, really?
language.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's ways you can do it. We would train teachers in our own within our own congregation who could work with them. Mm-hmm. There are just some basic ways, even beginner conversation levels and things like that. Mm-hmm. And all of this for us is also within the context of the gospel of Jesus Christ. We want to love people. We want to share the love of God with them. It's about relationships, and some of them may have faith, some of them may not. But we want to take good care of them.
Yeah, well, I think you certainly are going to do that. So, is there going to come a time when you are going to officially retire for good? Or are you going to leave that up to God and you?
No, I'm never going to retire. I'm getting younger every year.
Well, I think being active, being socially engaged is what keeps one young and vibrant. And of course, they also say that social engagement is a big factor in longevity.
Yes.
And one of the social engagement events that's often cited is going to church or synagogue or house of worship and being engaged socially in that context. So,
oh yeah,
so you
gives
should
us life.
Live longer, attend your house of worship.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So, you're going to still stay in Easton, I assume. This is your home. You've been here for a lot of years. And
That's the plan. We're going to stay here until otherwise we get a word from above, but no, we're going to stay in Easton.
yeah, good. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today.
It's been my pleasure.
And it's so nice to hear that you are on a new journey. Doug, can you give us the name of the church again?
Chiltonville Congregational Church. Chiltonville is the historic part of Plymouth.
Okay.
Where and it's right next to, literally right next to the, what they call Plymouth Patuxet now.
Plymouth Plantation.
And 10 a.m. is when services start.
10 a.m.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful church and a beautiful congregation. It's very old looking, and you walk inside, but you know, and they always have good food afterwards.
They what?
They always have a good coffee hour afterwards.
Oh, okay. Oh, that should be a
Social
good
hour. Yeah.
That should be a good attraction too.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for joining us today, for Reverend Doug Falls of the Chiltonville Congregational Church, and I thank you for being here, and hopefully you've enjoyed the program. Until next time, Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, be well.
Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.